I should do a comedy bit up here. All right, so for those of you, so we can get this out of the way, that want the slides, there's a QR code here. It'll take you right to them. So you can grab those there, and we'll get into this thing. Cool. So my name is Tim Bouchard. I am the owner and CEO of Luminous, which is a local marketing agency. We do a lot in the digital space. We work a lot with healthcare and anything that's like care-related, childcare, home care, healthcare. I graduated from UB, local Buffalo. I've been in the design space, the dev space, marketing space, and I've been doing it for probably too long at this point. If you want to connect with me, there's X and LinkedIn. So here's a couple of disclaimers before I get started because I don't want to hear it. This presentation is not about abandoning Google, even though I have my issues with Google, just so everyone knows. And search engine optimization is not dead. So what I want you to not do is take away from this presentation that you shouldn't be optimizing content or websites, and that Google is something you should completely stay away from. The point of this presentation is to talk about how Google has become a crutch for so many small businesses and organizations, thinking it's their only and best way to capitalize on visibility and getting out in the market. And we're going to talk about how to avoid that becoming something that can work against you. So if everyone remembers back in like 2015 or so, everything was awesome. Life was good. You could pay pennies on the dollar to get stuff from Google. You could rank for website pages, do a couple keywords, a couple meta tags, maybe an image alt tag, some nice H tags, and you'd end up getting a whole bunch of traffic to your website. And those links, number 1, 2, 3, they'd be right at the top of Google, maybe next to the map pack, but that was the easy way to do it, and it was awesome. Google Ads had started. It was really low cost clicks, really high clicking performance for getting things to convert on your website, and it became a shortcut that a lot of people moved, rightfully so at the time, from traditional marketing over to digital because dollars spent in traditional were not converting as highly as dollars spent on digital. So we all loved it. It was awesome. Then it got real. Then around 2020, 2022, Google started injecting a whole bunch of more features into the platform. As we've now learned, which we'll talk about a little bit later, they started manipulating their Google Ads platform and display network for revenue reasons. And ultimately what they've been working towards for the last 5 to 8 years, ever since our glory days, is to keep as much traffic on Google as long as possible and convert everything without people leaving their site. So what we're going to talk about today is a couple hard truths, then a couple of things that you can work through, and then a couple of ways that you can capitalize in the future on avoiding having to fall into the pitfalls of Google wiping you off the face of the earth, as it's done to some people. Hard truth number 1, Google is a monopoly. The government believes this, I believe this, a lot of people are starting to believe this. They have isolated the ad network. They own so much of the web traffic that they can make whatever decisions they want, irregardless of the people that use the platform and capitalize on the platform for visibility. As you know, they've always been the lead player. They have an 85% advantage gap over their closest competitors. Yahoo has always been right there. And they pretty much have a 93% share overall still up until about 2023. I mean, they are like the spot. So what was great about this when the life was good, and life is still to some degree good, is for small businesses, small local organizations, it consolidated the platforms that they needed to worry about online. Right? Why would we put too many ad dollars into something like Google or Bing ads when you can put everything in not Google and Bing ads, Yahoo and Bing ads, when you can put money into Google because that's where the majority of the traffic is. Let's focus on one platform. We'll opt for that platform. We'll advertise on that platform. It did simplify things, and it was good for a while. But that's become a little bit more complicated in recent years, and we'll talk about that too. Hard truth number 2. Google is a business, and businesses like to make money. And a lot of times, businesses that had really good mission statements and purposes early on in life start to get pressured by things like boards and profit reports and all that good stuff that comes along with being a bazillion-dollar business. Well, that kind of caught up a little bit when the DOJ started sniffing around 2017 or 18, and what you end up with is something like this, where you have a VP of Google Ads saying, we increased his prices 5% because we needed to hit revenue goals for the quarter, and we just turned the throttle up so we could get some more revenue in so we can meet our reports for the quarter. If we miss the street's expectations, we get punished pretty badly. I mean, these are all things that are internal communications that are part of the lawsuit filing with the DOJ right now. But what it really does for us as marketers and businesses and organizations is kind of point out that Google is playing to its profits and not necessarily to our success. It doesn't mean we can't be successful. Again, optimization and Google Ads aren't dead. It's just that they are starting to pull levers that do not consider what it's doing to the people that are using their platform and advertising on their platform. Hard truth number 3, Google doesn't care about publishers. They care about serving their information up to the people that are on their website. So this can be through any of the numerous features that they've added to the platform over the last 3 to 5 years especially. But when it comes to something like serving up the most relevant information or making sure certain legitimate businesses rise to the top, things like that, they are starting to favor certain things that aren't playing well to small businesses and organizations. So they did this in a way that seemed like it was going to be good for everyone, but they kind of set everyone up. And here's the short timeline on how that happened. In 2022, they announced the EAT initiative. So that was basically, how can we guide people that are putting content online, blogs, even service pages, company pages, things like that, to have relevant, strong content for the people that are searching on our platform so we can, as we're using our algorithm, it'll rise the cream to the top. The problem with that is it didn't quite work out that way. What they ended up doing was launching the helpful content update a year later, and their thought process was, if we tell everyone how to elevate their content quality, and then we release an algorithm update that recognizes that, it will sort itself out. But what the helpful content update actually did was the opposite. It buried a lot of good content that people made to the EAT recommendations, and it buried them in search. And everyone was like, how is this happening? And Google had people come to its campus to talk about why their content was being taken, basically deranked off of the internet. And they took a lot of feedback, and Google basically did nothing about it. In 2024, they released the spam filtering core algorithm update. This got really funky. Around 2023, 2024, something else happened with Reddit. And this whole time, Google's been saying, we want you to have high quality content. We want the publishers and the people that are genuinely going on travel experiences or reviewing products or opening businesses and talking about their expertise to be the ones that rise to the top of the rankings and contribute to our knowledge base for our users. But what ended up happening was all they did was elevate big brands and forums. And Reddit was one of them, and there's a reason for that. They invested $60 million in Reddit so they could scrape it for their AI tool. And just magically, Reddit became one of the most visible websites in the world. So here's how that happened. You can see it. It's literally, there's the helpful content update. All of a sudden, forums and big brands went to the top. And then they invested again in Reddit because they saw that it was rising up. And guess what? It got twice as much visibility immediately after. So what happens when these forums and these boards go to the top? Everyone else down. So that's independent publishers, hobbyists, small businesses, things like that. Oh yeah, and then they had that one update this past winter that actually corrected it temporarily, but they fixed that like 4 weeks later. Because now core updates come out like every 4 to 6 weeks. It used to be like every 3 to 4 months. Google's taking control of their platform and other people's content. So the example of Reddit before, this is a cross-reference that Lily did, that's why I didn't redo this work. Essentially, you can see where they started to de-rank people that were hobbyists going to do travel experiences and doing reviews on things like lodging and things you can do at certain places. Well, guess what they replaced it with? They replaced it with their own Google Travel section. Guess where they scraped a lot of that information from? All the people that created Eat content. So, I mean, you can think about that what you want, but the spam update came out, same thing happened. All those people that wrote Eat content, Eat still has some relevancy in search, but in some of these niche topic lines for expertise-based things or experience-based things, people are getting wiped out in favor of Reddit threads and big brands. So publishers disappeared. Here's an example of a woman with a craft website and an experience website in, I think it's Georgia or something. You can see where she was getting 6,000 or so views a day on her website. The helpful content update came out that halved. The Reddit investment spam update came out that halved again. And then that one update came back and it popped back, but then it disappeared again. And the funny thing about her story, if you want to look her up, that's her tag. They actually, right before the helpful content update, they did an expose on her as a prime example of what you should do for content generation to get visibility on Google. It's unbelievable. She's been a huge anti-Google advocate for the last 18 months, as you could imagine. But I encourage you to look her up and see what her story was. So the last thing that happened is the AI overview stuff came into play this past year. They had been beta testing it for a year or two, but it really hit hard at the end of 2024, and now it's consumed a lot of searches now in 2025. They've rushed this to a certain degree. That's also part of the problem. There's a lot of sort of semi-anecdotal studies out there about people that are testing AI overview to see how accurate it is, and you're getting answers like water can't freeze underneath 32 degrees Fahrenheit and stuff like that. It's, you know, AI is what it is right now, and we try and navigate around it, but with Google serving it as the first result for a lot of searches, it's acting as a de facto truth machine, and it's not there yet. So something interesting happened here too. The helpful content update came out, and when the search experience went down a little bit, they started to lose market share. Same thing happened with spam and AIO. The problem is they're behemoths. What's a 1 or 2% loss to DuckDuckGo and Perplexity going to do? So right now, they're not really feeling the pain. Average search traffic has actually gone up for Google despite their market share going down because more and more people are using digital platforms. So it's not easy to say that people are unhappy with the experience yet, even though they've lost market share, but it is some indication that the search quality is down. And it prioritizes itself. So here's a couple of examples of what the new screens look like. So if you were to say things to do in Miami, you get the AI overview first. You get rich answers, structured data, and the knowledge graphs. And you get people also ask question searches. There's not a single organic link in the first view of that search. And if you were to go down a little bit further, the first things would be TripAdvisor and Reddit, probably. Big brand forum. Next could be something a little bit more specific. Who are the best plumbers in Miami? So now we're talking business-based stuff. You get your Google ads at the top. No one expects that to be anything different. It's a revenue driver. But remember, in the Google world, they could pull the levers of an ad click cost on you at any moment to make their revenue. So something to keep in mind. AI overview still shows up, of course. And then the map pack, which we all know is very important for local business stuff. That's still good. And that is still organically driven, but people can sponsor their way into that as well too. But again, if you're looking for organic links, still not right up front for users. And if you think about the mobile experience, it's even worse, even more buried. The funny thing that happened recently, I follow Lily a lot, so I'm sorry I'm sharing so much of her stuff. AI overview started linking to its own Google pages. So now it's an actual loop that you get trapped in Google on. So that's something to keep in mind too. It's not even serving traffic to websites that it's pulling things from. It's scraping things, creating Google pages like Google Travel, and then sending people back to it when it generates AI overviews. So hard truth number 4, we'll get through this one and then we'll start talking about how to move past all this. I just think this stuff is super interesting. Sorry if I'm nerding out. Businesses and organizations refuse to adapt. This is the part that's kind of bugged me, and there's a lot of advocates out there recently like Rand Fishkin and others that are saying, like, remember your audiences are in more places than search. And what is your audience? And how are you building brand value and equity and long-lasting relationships with people and being a force in the market. Google doesn't make you a force in the market. It gets you sales occasionally, and it gets you a lot of unqualified leads too. And we all, the other way I look at it too with that last thing, I'll bring it up so it makes sense when I say it. Google became a little bit like a drug addiction for businesses. And think about it, you get such quick, positive feedback, and you can get sales, and they were cheap. But as that became more expensive, harder to manage, it's almost like I can't let go of it, even though I know it's costing me more money now and it might not be as effective, and I can't put money into something else, and it becomes this like trap almost. So it's not going to be easy to break the habit of, well, just put money into Google. We'll get traffic, we'll get leads. Okay. That's one piece of it. Google dependency is a risk. This is sort of like what I've been leaning into lately. Ads are effective, but they're very volatile. It depends on what the click costs are, what Google feels like charging you at the moment. It's an isolated ad network at the moment too, which is something that may or may not happen with the DOJ breaking up certain aspects of the Google system. It's only impactful when it's active. You can only make money on Google ads if you're spending money on Google ads. The second you take that away, your brand goes back to whatever it is without Google ads. So it's either a full-on commitment that always happens and potentially costs more money over time, or it's just one small piece while other things are happening, so that if it disappears or becomes too expensive, you have something to fall back on. Forums and big brands are prioritizing results, so SEO, as it's traditionally known, is becoming a little less effective and much harder to play in. And that's based on Google's rules now that they are not clearly communicating to creators and businesses. And the AI platform and Gemini is the priority for them at the moment, because they feel like they're falling behind to other people like OpenAI and even XAI and Claude and things like that. Information is pulled directly to the user, so now they're stopping flowing traffic to websites. So these are all things that are like red flags. And if you don't see the red flags and make any changes, then it becomes a real risk if you're the next niche that gets deranked on Google, or they jack up their ad prices and it becomes unaffordable and not scalable for you anymore. So the question is, how can you beat Google at their own game? So you're going to expect this answer, because that's what the topic of the talk is. Use a brand-first marketing strategy. And it sounds so boring, and it sounds like it's from 1980 or whatever. But like I said, people abandon traditional marketing, and they abandon the idea of becoming an actual market presence in favor of getting these quick-hit dopamine shots of sales from Google ads. And back in the day, making really good posts on their website and having it rank. And those things are slowly slipping away. And what's left in the wake? Unless you've been doing things around those activities, not much. So to break it, it still can't ignore, if you search for an actual brand, it doesn't put any of the other stuff up on the screen. It still shows the brand website first with the sublinks for that brand and all the other things that go along with it. It can't force a user to see something that it's not searching for. A brand name is too specific of a term for it to try and keep someone in its own platform. Branded search traffic converts better. And you've probably, for those of you that are marketers, have seen this. If you're getting branded search traffic, or even if you are spending Google Ads click costs on branded terms, you clearly know that those convert better. There's statistics that it goes up to 25% as much from a conversion percentage over a random generic term or generic website visit. AI platforms really like strong brands that they can citate basically at multiple points on the web. So if you're represented in content pieces, PR publications, you have a good website, it's full of content, you're active out in the market, it can't ignore that too. So it starts to pull those people together as resources for its answers. Remember, even if you get cited in an AI answer and get that link off to the right now is where they're doing it as a contributor to that AI answer, it doesn't mean they're not going to pull it into the infinite Google loop at some point. So that's still something to look out for. And it's easier to own your audience and not be dependent on a single platform. Again, if Google deranks a niche or raises ad costs, you're stuck. And you have to be aware that you're going to be stuck. You have to see the red flags. So break Google. Now, this is an example of that. So here's a roofer. There's their organic link down at the bottom. They have a pretty good ranking. And that's for a generic term. And then this is what happens if you look for them by brand name. You get like 4 or 5 things, including Better Business Bureau, Angie's List, and other strategic partners too. So even Google knows that it has to serve up all the other platforms that are talking about your brand too. You own the entire thing. That is based on a brand name. That's how you break it. It can't ignore that. Someone wants to search for this roofing company, they get the roofing company. If they want to search for something generic like commercial roofing, well, Google's going to give it its answers first, the map pack, and then kind of go into organic from there. And again, converting traffic 25% more. This is why. If you think about someone that's searching for a brand specifically and or goes directly to their website because they know the brand, they've been to their website before, that converts 25% higher because it's a bottom to slightly mid-funnel visit. They're aware of you. They must trust you at some point to know to look for you. And when they get to their site, they're looking for validation and confirmation and not information. So that's why it converts higher. And so on top of not being reliant on Google for something like ads for generic terms or even ranking for generic terms, you can bring people into your world if they know who you are. Remember, though, that it's only usually 5% of people that are out there looking actively to buy something. So that's where that comes into play. So make it easier for your audience searching for you. And your Google dependency, and diversify your digital visibility. I'm sorry I'm looking up there, but my notes are like way far away. I got them up, but they're like super far away. Diversify your digital visibility and stay active. So this is leaning into more engaging types of things. This is using social. This is participating in things like talks, webinars, sponsoring things, doing content partnerships with people, being active in the community. All the things that people pulled budget and time away from because Google is so easy, those things start to come back into play because those things will always be around for your brand to take part in. Stay top of mind with traditional marketing strategies. That's a boring one, but still true. Engage with your audience online and in real life. And I don't just mean like silly content or silly comments and like social, kind of like throwaway social media stuff. I mean, actually like pushing things out in a content-based video, audio, or social photography, or doing in-person experiences, things like that, that actually bring people into your world if you're a business or organization and make them feel connected to you. That's what makes them recall you later on, search for you directly, or type in your website. Become the authority in your market space. This factors a little bit more into the conversion side of things. But if you are a home services company or a healthcare company or whatever it might be, if you're not automatically seen as someone that is one of the top 2 or 3 leading locally in doing what you do, both from a proficiency and recommendations and reviews standpoint, then you're fighting a battle just on scraping by for attention and then hoping that your website can do the rest of the work. Again, you want your website to be a validation tool and not just an informational tool. You want them to be farther along in the funnel and decision-making process so that they're there to convert and feel good about it versus, I wonder if these guys do the thing that I want. Make your brand name more meaningful than the generic search keywords. Again, Google can't ignore that. That's the most valuable thing that you have going for you. Only 5% of your audience is ready to take action at any given time. I mentioned that before. It's a very old sales metric or note, but it's still pretty relevant. And that basically just means like everyone goes into marketing thinking like, well, I'll just tell everyone about me and they'll all buy. Not everyone's always ready to buy. Not everyone needs the roof, or not everyone needs daycare, or not everyone needs a product of a certain type. You have to be there so that when they are ready, they know to look for you as one of the first options and compare you against more generic stuff. But at that point, you're the market authority. So you already have a leading edge on it. Solely relying on search completely ignores 95% of your audience. You can't just go after the people that are actively looking for you and then expect if Google goes away or an ad network goes away that everyone else will still know about you. By doing some top of the funnel and authority building, you set everyone else up that isn't ready to buy to do the brand search or to seek you out specifically later on. And if you ignore them, there are other people that are doing that. And they will be the ones that they look for first, and you will be the second or third option that they just kind of vet against. So how do you fight back? Steps to make your brand Google proof. Refine your brand. This is some of the terminology that we use at Luminous, obviously, but differentiate your messaging with clear positioning. Everyone kind of skips this. A lot of people go into like technical speak or something that's very important to them. And a lot of times differentiated messaging has to be framed in the way that your audience wants to hear it, or it won't resonate with them. So it's a very obvious thing, but a lot of people skip this step in favor of maybe like a catchy tagline or very good creative or a really cheap ad spend. Establish a brand persona and stay true to it. Don't sound like a schizo when you're on social and doing ads and making content. People won't know who or what to trust of the things that you put out. Have a professional and uniform brand style. I guess you could say it's a schizo thing too. Like don't look one way on social, look one way on print, look one way on web. Make sure that you're bringing all these things together. If you're trying to reinforce someone looking at you, and especially if they're in the 95% that you're trying to warm up, you want them to feel comfortable that you're professional, put together, and that you are a market authority. And if you look scrambled, it works against that. And deeply understand your audience. This is an important one because if you speak to them and not with them, then a lot of things will go over their head. And if you don't change and frame things in a way where it means something to them from an outcome standpoint and not just from a need or service or technical standpoint, it doesn't quite hit home that you understand how you can help them. All you're doing is telling them what you can do, and they don't necessarily know if that helps them. Communicate your message. This is a lot about having all the right things in place. Have a comprehensive and professional website. If you're going to do Google ads, social ads, whatever, promotion, or go out and do sponsorships or networking events or webinars, you're trying to pull people into your world, you're posting on LinkedIn, go to my website. And you send people there, and you sound one way and you present yourself one way, and you send someone to the website and it doesn't live up to their expectations, you'll lose them, they'll bounce. And that's not a good way to use your website if you're spending money and effort to send people to it. It's your hub tool. It is the thing that you need to get people to convert. Well-branded sales and marketing materials. This kind of goes along with the conversion standpoint. If you're getting someone's attention, if you have digital takeaways or sales onboarding things, keeping the experience going consistently helps get to a closing percentage that means something. Impactful multimedia production, building that face-to-face time, and producing authoritative content, being the market authority. Stand out, be different, be smart, and communicate in a way that means something to the people that you're targeting. And then grow your audience, increase the visibility, do events, do content, do webinars, do things that bring people into your world. If it's 3 or 5 people, so what? We all start somewhere. We're not all huge behemoth companies that can get 300 people on a webinar and then sell 600. I don't know, like you have to start somewhere. Diversify your content, diversify your channels. Don't be reliant just on Google or TikTok or whatever it is that you're on, because these platforms own us more than we own what's on them. So just keep that in mind. So when you diversify it, it lessens the risk across the board. Expand your reach with outbound advertising. Google's inbound. Right? People are putting in terms, you're paying to get in front of them, they're actively looking for you. That's the 5%. The 95% needs to be touched. They needed to get a lot of touch points to, one, know who you are, trust that you say who you are, and then actually take action when they need you. Stay top of mind with boosted or earned media. PR is often left out, especially for small businesses. Earned media is great, you don't have to pay for it. But you can also do sponsored content or collaborative content, work with other strategic partners, and that goes a long way too. Be active in the community in your market. Everyone forgets this nowadays, kind of because of COVID and social constructs now to begin with. But a lot of things like this, or even community events where small business or job fairs, whatever it is to get in front of people, you're trying to get touch points that mean something to everyone, not just the 5%, but the 95%. And it's kind of like the Google thing is a first date disaster. Nice to meet you. Buy from me. Okay. That was $1 well spent. And it doesn't always happen. Conversion rates are low on Google. They're 3 to 8% depending on what you're doing. You can obviously get a lot of sales, you can get a lot of clicks from that, but it is a really high expectation to touch someone one time from a Google ad and expect that they're going to buy something from you, especially if it's 3, 4, 5 figures cost. The 95% need touch points. Just a reminder on this. Low value purchases need somewhere around 7 touch points. Mid value need somewhere around 15. High value somewhere around 35, and enterprise much more around 47. And this is why you see large companies doing things like webinar series and white paper documents. And we all look at those because we're a little bit younger and we're part of the new cool digital age where we can just buy our way into everything. But they're starting to come back. And if you don't look at them necessarily as sales conversion tactics, but as authority building and engagement with your target audience and a knowledge-based contribution to your market, it becomes a little bit more valuable. So what's happened is, and I mentioned that like drug addiction kind of style thing, is when Google said, well, pay us some money, we'll get you sales, we all forgot about a lot of this stuff for the small businesses. Own your audience, search and social media, they're just technically distribution channels. If those channels go away, you lose the audience on that channel. So that's something to keep in mind. High quality content earns a loyal audience. So if you're just putting out AI spam posts, don't expect a lot of engagement with those. But if you have some unique stories about how your product or service has helped someone, or how you've partnered with another organization to accomplish something that benefits a whole lot of people, that's really good content stuff. Funnel everyone to a newsletter or online community is something that's becoming more popular. Again, newsletters kind of got poo-pooed at the end of the 2010s. But they've started to come back because people have realized that they've lost grip on their audience, and their distribution channels are social at this point and their website, and they're not quite hitting the same. Engage and provide value repeatedly. And that's basically just making sure that you're active with your audience. So one thing to keep in mind is this isn't easy, and that's why everyone abandoned it. It takes a lot of work to do content and do events and do more than just put out ads and pay for clicks on Google. So you got to kind of change your perception of measurable results. So if we look at our funnel, the top is sort of your 95%, right? It's engagement pieces, it's impressions, and it's all the things that we said as marketers 8 years ago, well, we could track sales now. Impressions don't really mean that much. But as the conversion costs have gotten higher on Google and Meta, so now we're going back to, okay, well, what if we were going to do less sales-driven marketing and do a little bit more brand building? Well, what are the things you have to look at? And we all said impressions were dumb a couple years ago, and that's actually a pretty good indicator of how many people are seeing the things that you're putting out there. If you're doing a content piece or a webinar, or even if you're pushing out outbound ads, you're trying to get brand visibility for the touch points. We've just become a little numb to the idea that that's valuable, and it's starting to come back because you need those people to search for your name, not for your service. Branded search term impressions on Search Console are a very good indicator of mid-funnel interest. And this is something that Google only recently added into Search Console as something that they'll tell you about now, because they still hide a lot of metrics. But branded search, they can't hide from you on Search Console, just like they can't hide you from people that are searching for you. So you can see, if you want to measure loosely, it's not quite as good as Google Ads conversion or Meta conversion. If you want to measure how effective you're being in your brand building, you can look to see how many people are searching for your brand name on Google Search Console. You can look at the graph, you can see the trend. Direct web traffic is the same thing. You can look at analytics and see who's come directly to your site. Those are people that have been to your site, they know who you are, or you have a very easy to remember.com, they put it in. Website conversion percentage is another good mid-funnel indicator. Basically, these are the people that have been warmed up enough that they will convert through a form or through a phone number. Basically, when you're getting that 25% more likely to convert happens in this process because the branded search got a warm person onto your site, you had a good site that validated what they wanted to see, and you had a clear CTA somewhere so that they knew to call, fill out a form, or purchase. And the bottom is your sales closing percentage. So if it's not a product purchase and it's a service purchase, then you can look to see, well, have our sales closing percentages gone up? Because if we're getting more branded traffic, more direct traffic, then our conversion percentage of our traffic is going up, and these people are warmer to us, they already trust us. So are we also seeing that bump in when they reach out to us, them committing to buy or work with us? So one thing to remember is it takes a village. I mentioned people abandon this stuff because it's not easy. It takes a lot of moving parts. Content needs to be produced frequently. If you go silent, people will forget about you. But you have to kind of balance it because you don't want to go spammy, low quality content. You want high enough quality content or meaningful enough content that someone wants to see it. Social media and PR efforts need to be active. For a lot of people that are smaller, social is the easier play. But remember, PR doesn't have to be crazy hard. Now, I'm not a PR person, but if you're active in the community or doing something like sponsoring a farmer's market or working with BOCES or something, then you want to tell people about it. You can share that with news networks or small independent publishers locally, and you can get that stuff boosted out through them too. They want to know what businesses and individuals and organizations are doing to enrich their community locally. They'd love to share that message. Content and media need to be genuinely high value. Again, don't create spammy AI stuff. And this is the key that kind of trips up businesses, especially, maybe not so much organizations. Leadership and management or technical expertise people need to be involved. It doesn't matter if you're a home services company or a product company. You need someone from in the organization to drive the actual accurate, authoritative information that gets put into content pieces. It can't be an outside marketing vendor that just says, well, I kind of know about this. I'll write about it and we'll see if everyone buys it. Like, there's someone in the organization that knows exactly why this is important for your audience. And if they're not involved in the process, it will be like moving a mountain to try and get this stuff done. So next steps, how to implement a brand first strategy. Assess your brand identity and differentiated messaging. So this is going to reflect the last couple lists I had, but now it's going to be action items. Does your brand have a professional look and feel? Do you have a unique value statement and position in the market? If your answers are no to these, just think about the little tweaks you can make to start to clean this stuff up. Is your brand's persona, voice, and tone consistent? You don't want to sound like you're all over the place. You don't want to look like you're all over the place. Assess your audience and the funnel and identify any gaps. So this is an easy thing where you can look at what you're currently doing and say, where aren't we active? Where might we be most valuable? And what's most realistic for us to jump into and start to get these touch points with our audience that we're going after. How well does your brand strategically attract the new prospects? Is your audience motivated to act, buy, or sell, or subscribe to a newsletter, or take any action on your website? Clear CTAs. Are you providing value across multiple touch points to nurture your prospects, or are you just asking them to marry you on the first date, like we mentioned before? Relying on Google skips a lot of this stuff. And are you effectively measuring that funnel activity? One thing I always caution against is it's great to get things going, but if you don't know if they're working for you or which things are working you could do more of, it gets a little tricky on knowing if you're spending your time the right way. And also, if you're trying to get leadership involved or management involved, you can use some of these numbers to show them and kind of reinforce the fact that, hey, like, look, you guys did that webinar, or you helped us put together this white paper, or you contributed to this article or video, and look how many people saw it, and look what happened from that. That will likely bring some steam in so that they want to do more and more of it. Develop a brand first integrated marketing strategy. So this is just reminding you that it's not Google. If your marketing strategy is SEO and Google ads, okay, that's a channel, you're doing a tactic. It's not a full strategy. Understand which digital and traditional outlets your audience is in. This is very good stuff if you want to look at SparkToro and Rand Fishkin's stuff. He talks a lot about where you can research and find where your audience participates in the digital ecosystem and figure out, like, if we're spending all of our time here, but there's a large chunk of our audience on this channel, we don't do anything there. Maybe that's a first quick win that we can do and then work from there and start to build up some momentum. Prioritize quality over quantity. Remember, please don't do AI spam posts on your site. Know the right balance between organic and paid channels. This is important too. Everyone thinks, well, if we do more stuff, it's going to cost more money. Yes and no. If you can do some things grassroots organically internally, it's going to cost time. If you are using an outside vendor, then it might cost money. If you're using an ad channel, then it might cost more money. It doesn't always have to mean money. Sometimes it can mean time or effort. And delegate execution roles to the most appropriate team members and vendor parties. So, bringing leadership in. Leadership doesn't have to publish the content. They just have to give someone an hour of their time to help give the information or record the video or record the audio, and someone else can do the production, someone else can do the publishing, someone else can do the measurement, someone else can report back on if it's working. And then set up brand first metrics: reach, impressions, engagement, branded search, website traffic, conversion percentage, and sales percentage. And then commit to it. Stay dedicated to the long game. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy to convince a boss to do this. It's not going to be easy to convince a client to do this. It's going to maybe not be easy to convince yourself you have to put more time into this. Everyone is addicted to Google giving them the quick wins, and those still exist, but they shouldn't be the only thing that you're leaning into. Brands need to remember to market to their audience and not to an algorithm. That's my favorite slide. I teased that one online if anyone else saw it. I really like that one. Take a picture of it? No? Okay. Remember the goals. Your audience needs to specifically seek you out. Number one goal: get the name recognition, have branded search and direct traffic be the jam that you're going after. And you can measure that through your Google Search Console, direct traffic, impressions, all that good stuff. Brand equity that lasts beyond Google's control. Proof yourself or prepare yourself in case they jack up ad prices or the divestiture of the Google enterprise from the DOJ interrupts something in the ad network, whatever it might be. Wide-reaching exposure and recognition is the preferred choice of what you're doing from an expertise standpoint. Highly converting web traffic, highly closing sales, and no longer be dependent on Google alone. So that brings us to get started. If you're interested, we do this in a 2-hour session with people at Luminous. You're welcome to sign up. It's a low-cost, money-back type of exercise. It takes less than 2 hours. But really what I want you to remember is that if you don't start doing it now, it will never happen. And if you just let Google control your life, it can easily rip it away. How's that for an uplifting ending?